Hello, my name is Heather Dady. I'm the SAT liaison for Albuquerque Public Schools and APS Charter Schools. Today I'm going to go over a presentation regarding parent requests for SAT. So welcome to Albuquerque Public Schools Curriculum and Instruction Revised Parent Request Training for SAT chairs and SAT teams. The agenda for this presentation is as follows. What is a parent request? Who starts the parent request process? SAT and prior written notice procedures, and submitting completed SAT files. So what is a parent request? A parent request is when a parent is concerned with their child's performance in school and requests their child receive the special education evaluation process. Parents can request special education evaluation in the following areas: academic, behavior, speech, and language. Here is a flow chart showing the parent request process. It begins with the principal or the admin designee. The principal will meet with the parent and fill out the parent request form in the office of the admin. They will also fill out the R6, which is the parent interview for English language learner form, if they have an E in Synergy, which means they're an ESL student. The principal is then going to give a copy of that form to the parents. They're going to email the SAT chair. They're going to email the SAT liaison office. The SAT chair will go ahead and contact the nurse to get the nurse's forms. They will also contact the parents within 10 days of that signature, and will email the parents the safeguard and procedural safeguards for SAT. During the first meeting, the first question that's asked is there significant evidence to honor the parent request? If there is, we're going to move on to Tier 2 and proceed to moving that file onto special education evaluation. If not, then we will go ahead and do what's called a prior written notice in that first SAT meeting. And that will let parents know that there is not enough evidence. So the student is showing that they're proficient, they're making gains, their attendance is good, there's no behavior concerns, areas like that. And that will be given to them in the first SAT meeting and also sent certified mail home to the parents. That form will be uploaded into Synergy. It will also be given to the SAT liaison and to the principal. So where does the parent request process start? Again, we kind of talked about it with the flow chart. When a parent is requesting a special educational evaluation, they need to be directed to the admin. The principal or the admin designee will meet with the parent and complete the parent request for evaluation form, which is located on Canvas. The principals will then need to email the SAT chair and the SAT liaison and give a parent the copy. Principals should explain to parents that SAT chairs will be calling to schedule their first SAT meeting within 10 days from signing the parent request for evaluations. Parents are encouraged to submit any medical documentation or prior evaluations prior to a SAT meeting. So it's really important, SAT chairs, as we get these coming in from our principals, that we're making those meetings right away. SAT chair's responsibility for scheduling meetings. Once you receive the parent request for evaluation form, contact the parents right away. We've talked about this within the 10 days of parent signature. You should send home the R2 form to invite them to the first SAT meeting. If you receive a private evaluation, submit the evaluation to the quad diag and invite him or her to the SAT meeting. You will also need to notify your teachers of the meeting date and which areas the concerns are being addressed by parents. SAT chairs, you will also need to request the N2 from the nurse. Email the nurse immediately and request the N2. In the subject line, make sure you're putting N2 parent request. COVID-19 guidelines for nurses are as follows. As long as we're in yellow or red, nurses will determine if the N1 is current, which means it was within a year. If this information is incomplete or older than a year, then the health office will call the child in to do a health appointment and collect that hearing and vision. If we're in green, then the N2 will be conducted like normal at the school site with the school nurse. The nurse will email the N to the SAT chair. The SAT chair will email the SAT liaison with the N2. Requesting the R6 parent interview English language learners. The SAT chair will need to obtain a copy of the completed R6 from the parents either by phone, sent home with a student, email, or at the first SAT meeting. This should be completed with the principal at the initial meeting with the principal, but if it's not, then we need to collect it prior to the first SAT meeting. Remember that if parents only answer only or mostly English, then the R7, R8, or R9 is not needed. The R6 needs to be emailed to the SAT liaison. What are the teachers' first SAT meeting's responsibilities? Teachers need to bring or email the following information. The R1 is either going to be complete or incomplete. So if the school has been in session for 6 weeks or longer, complete R1, and you're going to backdate it. If the school has been in session for less than 6 weeks, then there's no R1 needed. Teachers need to provide data, so assessment scores, classroom-based measurements, grades, attendance, and behaviors. All this needs to be brought to the first SAT meeting so we can discuss if there is a need to move on for special education evaluation process. First SAT meeting procedures. The SAT chair will complete the R3 initial meeting summary form and the R6. And if the PWN, which is the prior written notice, is needed, that will be filled out as well. All parties at the meeting will be able to share positive and concerns regarding the student's performance. As a team, which includes our parents, we will determine the following path. If yes, we think there is a concern, then the team will determine Tier 2 interventions and implement it for the next 8 weeks. Parents will be provided the parent invite letter for the follow-up SAT meeting at the meeting along with an email of their parent rights. Know that there is not a concern. So if there is not a concern, the team will conduct a prior written notice refusing to move on to a special ed evaluation due to lack of data showing. A copy of this needs to be sent home certified mail to parents, uploaded to Synergy, and emailed to a SAT liaison. A copy will be given to parents in meeting along with the email of their parent rights. So we're going to continue talking about the PWN. So prior written notice must be issued to parents in a timely manner in cases where there is a denial of parent request for testing. So that is why it is very important during that very first SAT meeting that we are discussing if there is a need. The student can be referred by the parent in many areas of concern. So you might have a student that doesn't qualify for reading and you do a PWN, but they do qualify for Tier 2 in math and you would proceed with Tier 2. So at that first initial SAT meeting, the PWN needs to be written and given to parents. So how do you determine if a student or a parent request should receive a PWN? So during the first SAT meeting, the team will review assessments, attendance, grades, CBMs, which is classroom-based measurements, et cetera, to determine if there's a need in any area in which the parent wants testing. So you're going to look at all your data and determine if there is a need. So is the student at grade level? Is he or she performing proficient? Are there behavior concerns? Are they coming to school? If there is not significant enough evidence that testing is needed, then a PWN will be written in that area of concern. Evidence listed above should be noted on the form as why refusal of testing is warranted. This will be given to parents at the meeting and sent certified mail as well. If there's other areas of need that the team would proceed to Tier 2, then that would be the time to go ahead and start your Tier 2 interventions. The team would determine what interventions would be appropriate for that student. If no other areas of need, then the team would exit the student from SAT. At the follow-up SAT meeting, SAT chairs at the first SAT meeting should schedule a follow-up SAT meeting no more than 10 weeks out of the first SAT meeting. So that should have been done during the first SAT meeting. Now moving on to the second SAT meeting. A follow-up SAT meeting, the SAT chair will complete the R5 follow-up SAT meeting summary. All required documents, forms should be submitted by teachers and parents. The student's completed SAT file will be submitted to the reviewer for special education evaluation. And student will continue to receive Tier 2 services until placement determination occurs. So even though we turned in the file for the reviewer, we do not stop Tier 2 for a student. They will receive that Tier 2 services until they're either placed into special education or they're exited from SAT. Set your responsibility for submitting SAT file for parents request. All completed SAT packets for parent requests have to be turned in 60 days after the first SAT meeting. There will no longer be a Part A and a Part B of a parent request file. So there's only going to be one file that you turn in for a parent request this year. When submitting parent requests for evaluation form, the N2 and the R6 needs to go to the SAT liaison. The SAT liaison will then send you a task reminder that the SAT file will be due in 70 days. So I include those 10 days of scheduling. So 60 plus the 10 days of scheduling. Remember that if we haven't been in school for 6 weeks or longer, then there's not going to be the 6 weeks of data collection for Tier 1. You're going to move directly into Tier 2. All right, this is my contact information. Again, my name is Heather Dady. My office phone number is there, and my email is there. Thank you so much for participating today, and you have a wonderful day.